You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Anna Gabrielle.
Hey guys, what's up?
Anna, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
So, I am from Wilmington, Delaware, and born and raised, and I'm a tattoo artist. Kind of started off like working for my parents doing hair, and then met a client that had a boyfriend who was like a tattoo artist. He was like just finishing his apprenticeship, and then I ended up replacing him as the apprentice, and here I am tattooing every day.
Well, now, was this just something that you were always interested in, tattoos, or did you just decide like it just kind of came across your way and you thought you might dive right into it?
So I always was like an artist. I always drew, and I was actually a musician for a long time. And so I was always my alarm went off. Um, I was always just kind of like into art, just of any sort. And so I actually ended up going to the tattoo convention with my mom, and she kind of introduced me to that world. And then I don't think she like really expected like me to turn 18 and just go start getting a bunch of tattoos. And she was like, "Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "I learned it from you, mom."
What's funny is what's so interesting about tattoos is the fact that every artist has their own unique style. Like there's different type of varieties too. Like you want to look at like cartoon type style tattoos where like, giant bulging eyes, very kind of comic book looking. And then you have the more realistic ones that do a lot with like nature and like traditional Japanese style as well. Those always like I don't know. Whenever I saw them on somebody's skin, I always started wondering a million things because you can tell a lot about a tattoo that is on a person mostly what they're interested in. You see a lot of older guys that get like, I got a koi fish on my arm. I'm like, is that what's
Oh
trending right
yeah.
now? Or is that just because you actually really enjoy the Asian culture?
Yeah, the thing is it probably was at the time like really trendy, and I think that's like what the dangerous thing people get into, especially with like tribal was trendy at one point, and all these dudes really thought that it like contoured their muscle structure really well, and it was like cool looking. And then you run into like not actually understanding the culture or the meaning behind it. I mean, there's some people that have tattoos, like especially like Polynesian tattoos, where if you went into like those areas of the world, like they would fucking like be so pissed off and so offended by it, you
Because
know?
a lot of those tribal things are like for like warriors and stuff, especially when it comes to like their heritage. But like people started getting them down here because it makes them look badass or something like Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Momoa. I think he might actually be.
I meant
I'm
they're
not sure.
trying to be like Jason
Yeah. Oh,
Momoa.
be like him. Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's such a big like '90s thing. But like, you'd be surprised. I mean, tribal like is something that like I have had to do on people, and it is the same kind of person every time. It's like I know exactly who's gonna come in and ask for it. It's always some dude like between 40 and 60, honestly. And they're always like, "Yeah, man, I've always admired this style of artwork." And I'm like, and they're like, "And I want it on my biceps so it like contours my muscle." And I'm like, this is a midlife crisis. Like at this point, if you get tribal, like people just make fun of you.
Now, when it comes to your own unique style, though, what do you feel like you've kind of captured? Because it seems like you've taken bits and pieces, but a lot has to do with more of a pop kind of culture vibe to it as well.
I appreciate you saying that because everybody wants to kind of lump it into like one category of like, no, is it neo traditional? Is it new school? Is it all that? And it's like all of those things. And like with a little bit of the realism sprinkled in. It's just like I just want to capture like the essence of that, the time where that pop culture reference came out, like the vibe that that gave off. Like I mean, the other day, like I did a Terminator tattoo, and I like did like all these '80s like bright colors, and like I just like to capture the essence of that thing. And most of the things that I tattoo are things that I really like. the only things I don't really have a connection with are the video games. Like I do a lot of video game tattoos. I can kind of capture that. A lot of those clients are very vocal about those things and they'll tell me all about them. So then I'm kind of able to capture them. But that's the only like thing that I do super often that I don't really know as much about. But a lot of the things I do, tattoo are things that I like and really enjoy. Like I just I'll do whatever I have to do to capture that vibe. So it's not really about like me trying to stylize it. I will say that I primarily do color though.
I know when it comes to the concept, though, I think a lot of people think of like when you want a tattoo, it means it has to mean something to you, but no one ever really brings up the question, does it mean anything to the artist who's putting it onto your skin? I feel like when you're tattooing, especially for how long of those sessions really like, kind of last, you have to be interested in what you're tattooing too. Like you have to
Right.
pay attention, you have to be focused. You can either put it in headphones or you can talk to someone just so the conversation's not awkward when you're sitting there for 6 hours. It'd be weird if nobody said anything. But it brings in a whole new kind of key point when you find something that's super interesting to you, that you're like someone comes up to you and goes, hey, I want this tattooed onto my body. You can be like, oh my god, I remember that when I was a kid. Then you can get super into it and you can kind of capture that essence of that feel from that time period.
Right. And the thing is, I'm always some of the things that I am not as familiar with. A lot of times, I'm like very interested in hearing about why they're into it and stuff like that. Like very much like person who wants to build a friendship with the client, and I always want to like know things about it. And oftentimes, you kind of like I can kind of connect certain pop culture things that maybe I don't know as much about back to something that I do like. So anything pop culture can really just like spark the conversation no matter what, even if I'm not super familiar with it. Like you'll see I do a lot of like adventure time tattoos. That's not something I'm super familiar with. And I've done a lot of like Pokemon tattoos, not super familiar. I haven't seen Pokemon since I was a child, and I didn't like stay interested in it too long. But I'm like, all right, well, if you like Pokemon, you probably like Dragon Ball Z, or you probably like this, that, and the other. And it always sparks a conversation. I always want to be friendly with my clients. I'm not the kind of tattoo artist that puts in headphones and just like zones out and stuff like that. I'm always like willing to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I think that's kind of why my vibe and my my work is appealing to people because I obviously like have tried to like know the person and really enjoy them.
Well, I mean, shit, if you're carrying a needle around me, I want to make sure I get to know your, at least your first name first, you know?
Right. It's so wild to me. People will just like walk into a shop and nobody will talk to them. They won't be greeted. They're just like, what do you want? I just can't believe people have experiences like that. And like I don't know if you've like looked into like where I work at all or anything, but this the shop that I work in is it's just me and one other person, and he and I are very close friends, and we kind of like pride ourselves on being very diverse, very understanding, very tolerant, and like nice to everybody. And that's a big thing in this industry is like women and trans people and gay people will be treated nasty in shops, and people of color will be treated nasty in certain shops because there's definitely still a big like polarizing thing of like the old school like kind of like semi like racist tattooers and then like the new wave of tattooers. And a lot like more times than not there'll be like, oh, I don't want to tattoo dark skin. Oh, I don't want to be around gay people. I don't want to touch on some gay guy and stuff like that. So
Is that the thing about the tattoo artist though? Is that just like an uncomfortable thing? I mean, I can see what they mean by maybe tattooing on somebody with color just because it might be hard. Like if you know, because you're used to working like off a white piece of paper or something, it might be different if you change it up. But I would never see that stopping me from creating a tattoo that someone would want.
right. So that is more, I think that the excuse that they would use is what you just said about the white piece of paper. But what it really is laziness. And it's also most of the time like sort of like a accidental like race, not accidental, but it's racism. Like people a lot of people in this industry were brought up by other tattooers who, historically never tattooed black people, never wanted to, never really wanted to associate with black people. And I mean, you see it like I don't know if you saw this recently, but one of the judges on Ink Master was walking around in blackface different times at Halloween parties, like 3 different years in a row, and nobody said shit because it's just the tattoo culture is just so wildly like mixed up and like kind of backwoodsy sometimes. Like,
Well, we've kind of changed as people too in society. We've become a lot more open and a lot more kind of sensitive to some issues too. Like, that one of my all-time favorite movies would never be able to be done again. Tropic Thunder, for instance. Like, nobody even really brought up the fact that Robert Downey Jr. wore blackface.
and I think in that case, and I actually just had a conversation with the shop owner, my friend Ova Jackson. I want to shout him out real quick on your podcast. Um, he uh he kind of was like, Robert Downey Jr. was kind of pointing out the ridiculousness of like having an actor play a black character when there's already a black actor, which is something that happens in more so in like I don't know if you saw the shape. I think it's the Shape of Water, and Scarlett Johansson was like an Asian character or a character that was supposed to be Asian from an anime. I'm pretty sure that's the movie. Is it the Shape of? No, it's not. It's Ghost in a Shell. That's what it is. It's Ghost in a Shell. Like, why didn't they have an Asian actress play her? Or it's like, um, you know, in Jared Leto in the oh my god, what's that movie called where he was the trans person?
Well, I get the idea of it. See, what the factor is though, like you got to think, were they just doing that? Could they got a black actor maybe play whatever the Colonel's name was in Tropic Thunder, or did they want Robert Downey Jr.? No, they wanted Robert Downey Jr. But it
Well, they
is
wanted
throughout.
him. They wanted him to. They specifically wanted him to be in blackface to kind of point that notion out that you know we could have gotten a black actor, but instead we got Robert Downey Jr. And it's just like kind of a satire on that culture of like not getting a black actor to play or not getting an actor that is actually what the character calls for.
Yeah, well, I
Instead,
saw the
yeah.
Joe Rogan podcast with Robert Downey Jr. when he was on, and they talked about it, and he has explained. The funny thing was that all the kind of backlash and everything went towards Ben Stiller when he was playing Simple Jack. They were more upset about him dressing up as somebody with like a mental disorder rather than having the whole thing attack on him with blackface. See, the thing is, for a long time we've been thinking in old notions, and I don't. We're in a different world now. It's kind of crazy where we do tend to take things a little bit too far, but especially when you judge somebody on a tattoo and you won't give them a tattoo because of the color of their skin. I mean, is it that
Right.
prevalent of a problem? Like, I'm not racist in any way, but down here in Ocean City, Maryland, we have a beach vibe. So it's like, it's not really around here. My uncle's a tattoo artist, and, he doesn't judge anything. The only thing he won't put on you is like a swastika or a certain gang sign, which a lot of people want to go get. You know how many people want to go get a gang tattoo on their arm or something just to show off something?
Right. The thing is like it's just that older generation of tattooers are the ones that apprentice the younger generation and then another generation. And so as the culture of the world has changed, so have the people who have been wanting to get into the business. So it's not just white guys wanting to get into the business. It's not just you know people who maybe were raised in a certain environment to be racist. It's not a behavior you're born with, it's taught. And so these people who you know are kind of like, oh, I don't want to tattoo this black person, I don't want to touch on this gay guy, I don't want this gay guy touching on me. Those are things that were just like they were things back then, and unfortunately were carried and taught to another generation of tattooers that are happen to be specifically white male. I have not run into this with female artists. Like, I have run into mostly female artists who are backing up the idea of diversity and you know tattooing everybody, you know, keeping a safe space for everybody. I think that's the biggest thing that I pride myself on in my business. My clientele is, I would say, 80% female LGBTQ or trans. And that's something that I pride myself on because these people come in and they tell me horrible stories about, oh, women tell me this tattooer sent me a dick pic. This tattooer was creepy to me. Or there's trans people that say this tattooer denied me, or this tattooer treated me poorly the entire time I was there, and I believe it's because I'm trans. Or a gay person said this guy didn't want to touch me because he didn't want to touch up on a gay guy. And then there's black people that come
Hold
in
on,
and they
that
say,
type of thinking is not really going to last, especially if you're going to be a tattoo artist. See, the crazy
right,
part of why I say that is because we're the world's changing. It's becoming more prevalent now than it was back in the day. So if you still think in those old mindsets, then you're not going to last, especially if you're a tattoo artist. Okay, you can close
right, and
yourself
that's
off.
definitely that's definitely happening. There's these guys that used to be fucking really busy that aren't anymore.
And also the factor is too, um, you got to be, hate to say it, but you got to be a little bit crazy to want to ink somebody up on tattoo their skin in general. And I think that's crazy in a good way, I would say. You have to be exploratory. Where we see, I started a lot of people now at a younger age start to become tattoo artists, which is amazing because they have still creativity left in their head. They haven't kind of subjected themselves to the 9 to 5 lifestyle and turned into a factory worker.
Right, right,
Tattoo artists, glass blowers, the list goes on and the amount of creativity that we're now seeing more and more and more. I know so many kids in school that used to give themselves tattoos that they're regretting now, but I know some of them that turned out to be professional tattoo artists. It's an
right,
amazing thing. You get a whole different experience. Like you get to sit down and become, first of all, not only intimate with a person just through the action of having a natural conversation, which we don't really do anymore, but being able to get to know and kind of vibe off one another. When you work at a tattoo place, I mean, as sure as you must know, you want to feel comfortable where you work. It makes you feel more open and more expressive towards others. When someone comes in and gets a tattoo, a lot of those people sometimes they're just coming to you for their first time. They're just like, I want to get this on. I think I want this. I want this on like my arm, maybe my ankle. And you're just sitting there like, yeah, I can totally do that for you. And it's supposed to give them at ease because it's like skydiving. They've never done it before. Usually when people are going in for their first time, it's like, this is going to be on my leg or my arm forever. I want to feel comfortable that I'm making the right decision, not regretting it.
right. And you want to have that good bedside manner. And it's like, I remember when I started getting tattooed and I was not even close to being a tattoo artist. I would go into a shop. It's always mostly male tattooers in there. And they want to like tease you or flirt with you about it. And that just doesn't make anybody comfortable. Like I'll be like, I want this, and they'll be like, oh, why do you want that? Like, they want to give you that like weird like, and then when you get back there to get tattooed, they ask you, you got a boyfriend, stuff like that. Nobody is comfortable there. Like nobody wants that,
Hey,
you
look, if
know?
I'm getting a tattoo of a quarter on my ass and somebody's hitting on me as I'm getting a tattoo, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl, I'm going to feel uncomfortable.
Right. It's like, dude, you're tattooing me. And it's so prevalent still, and I can't believe it. But at the same time, with the age of social media coming out, people are coming out and speaking up against certain people because they are consistently behaving this way. And it's like, it's great. It's a great thing because then younger artists like me, I mean, I'm 23. I'm probably like when I was at the convention this weekend, I'm always one of the youngest people around in the industry. Aside from like honestly, I think with the women coming into the industry more and more, like a lot of us are the younger generation as well. So like, we're all talking and everybody's kind of on the same page as far as like me and the other women and a lot of the younger men coming in. So it's nice to have that flow of like everybody can get tattooed, not just white men, not just white women, not just, men in general. It's everybody can get tattooed. And
I've
that's
talked
great.
to a few female tattoo artists, and the crazy thing is how open it's becoming as well. I don't think a lot of people understand that it is pretty closed off. I mean, in the beginning, like we were saying, the whole factor was nobody ever wanted to get a tattoo from a female because she was a woman, or nobody wanted to get a tattoo from this guy because he was of a certain ethnicity. It's like now, the stereotypical tattoo artist back in the day was like a white guy in their 50s, short hair, had like the turkey neck that he was so old or something, and then he was covered in tattoos. That was the guy you went to go get your tattoo. And then now it's turning into you're getting a wide variety of people. But the amazing thing about it is the experience, how open, you want this form of art to be open, because once you start closing off art, you start losing the original essence to it. If you just told a bunch of people, if you hung a painting up and said only some of you can look at it, not all of you, you're totally
Right.
completely doing yourself a disservice for getting your own art out there, and also letting people see what might bring out something inside of them.
Right. And it's just so it's so cool to like, and to meet all the clients and all the new people that are just like, just turning 18 or just getting into getting tattooed. And, the client can oftentimes be just as cool, as the tattooer. Like I have clients and I'm like, you guys are just way cooler than I ever will be, as much as like, on the external, people probably think that I'm like wild as shit or whatever. I just go home, hang out with my dogs and just like, you know, like watch TV. I'm not super into partying or anything. I'm very like low key, like everybody calls me like an old auntie, but like I like my clients, some of them are just like really cool and interesting people. Like I have clients that do like really like interesting jobs. I have clients who like I have a ton of clients that like rescue animals and like foster animals and like these just great people that I get to meet all the time. And you know, some of these people happen to be gay or happen to be black or happen to be something else. And it's just so nice that they're able to come and get tattooed comfortably in a spot because that's literally what like me and the other person that I work with, that is literally what we preach, and we're actually building a name for ourselves on that, and we're just really proud of that.
What would you say the biggest problem in the tattoo industry is? Would you say that it's not as open as you would like it to be?
I would say that it is still there's still mentalities that are unhealthy in the industry, and it's not, and I'm gonna like preface this with saying it's not all, but there are lots of tattooers that have been in it for a long time that need to just go out of it. There's tattooers that are still, you know, really, really attached to the old school mentality, especially when it comes to like, you know, torturing your apprentice or like, all of that stuff. Like being very aggressive and militant and stuff like that. All of that mentality of like, hazing and mansplaining to like female artists and stuff and like sexual harassment, all of that stuff still happens because it was okay. And because all of these like sort of like toxic people are still in the industry, like the industry needs to clean house as far as that goes. There's just a lot of like young people coming up in the industry, being apprentices and being hazed in like a really unhealthy way. And I think that's a huge problem.
What would you say one of the most beneficial things about just being a tattoo artist that you've learned so far?
Um, I honestly think that I've been very, very lucky to meet such like very supportive artists who, may have built more of a name for themselves than I have. I'm just so lucky to have them in my life to not only like support me but teach me things that I may not have known. Um and I think there is a lot of openness in the industry between artists. You'll have the very few that are like, the jealous types. They won't bring you into their world and show you anything. They kind of want to keep you closed off. If you start getting good, people will kind of
It's a jealousy
yeah.
factor, sadly.
Yeah, people will start getting jealous as you start getting good. And, even like this weekend, I won my first convention trophy. And I heard people locally, not in Philadelphia, but people who are from Delaware locally, like talking a bunch of shit about it, because they never won anything. It's totally a jealousy thing. Like I always wonder about people like that because I'm like, how can you be so obviously salty? You
What's
know?
crazy is you got to worry about the people that support you 100%, and then when you actually win something, they get really jealous.
Right, and that's so disheartening. I didn't have that happen, but I did have, like, people who I expected to say shit, but if that happened, that'd be so heartbreaking. Like, if somebody was really supportive of me and then all of a sudden, like, started backing off, I would be like that'd be so, like, disappointing.
It's crazy is with one of these old school art forms as well. It's a lot like comedy too. The whole aspect is you don't want to give the secrets to help somebody else get farther than you. It's like, it's art. Why aren't we helping each other? And if someone progresses better, then who cares? You have your own unique style. So many people still live in this mindset that if I give him all the tips to how I do my tattoos, the next thing I know, he'll steal them and then he'll make them better than me and then he'll go farther than me. It's like, no, that nobody can capture your style the way you draw. Nobody draws the same as somebody else. There might be people that can mimic it, but it's your unique style. What you add to the table is what makes it your style.
Right. And well, what's funny about that is my boyfriend's actually a comic. Um and he, I think that the only thing that separates it is that there's a little bit more camaraderie in tattooing than there is in comedy. Um like I go to shows with him all the time. I cannot believe how rude, like passive aggressive and rude they are to each other. I'm like, none of you guys are really like, no offense, and none of you guys are really doing anything spectacular right now. So why are you guys so like taking this so
Because
seriously? Like,
nobody wants to feel like it's like, a bunch of people racing to the door to see who gets there first. Everybody's tripping everybody and kicking everybody. Nobody wants to lose, nobody wants to feel like, oh, somebody's going to surpass me. It's like, so what? You know how many people come onto my podcast and just want to sit there and promote stuff for 30 minutes? I'm like, look, man, like it's a conversation. I've helped so many people start their own podcasts. I've formed podcasts. I've been on podcasts. I'm a pro supporter when it comes to creativity because hell, I'll connect people. There was a dude that owned a food truck. I connected him with a guy that makes his own hot sauce, and now they're working together. It's like, there you go. It's all about connection. If we just all took the time to help each other out, we're going to see a way more of a progressive world.
right, and that's the thing. I mean, like, the thing that I noticed, if every day I just tattooed another tattooer and did it, for free, that would be the equivalent of being a person who goes and does the open mic comics because it's all comics sitting there. None of them are laughing for each other because they're, being, petty. It's just if you just were more had more camaraderie, maybe you guys would try to promote yourselves and get audiences to your shows instead of getting other comics to come just to be petty. It's just like, what is this situation? That's the difference. That's the difference.
We live
You
in a
know,
mindset society where competition is everything. It's got to be,
right.
number one or you don't get anything. And then we went a little bit too far when it came to giving everybody participation trophies, especially for people who don't try. If you put in effort, you should get rewarded for it. Doesn't matter how much, but you should get rewarded as the same person that gets first place. But if you don't try at all and you expect a handout, that's a problem. You need to be able to do something that's going to benefit. You think I sit all the time thinking like letting people just want to come to me or do this? No, I go out and get guests. I go out and talk to people. I say, hey, let's have a conversation.
Right.
It's
You
about
know?
putting in whatever effort that you want to do something you truly love to do, you know?
It's like I work my ass off to get clients. I'm not working my ass off for the other tattooers. I'm working my ass off for my clients. So that's what I don't understand. It's actually nice to juxtapose it to comedy or to like compare it to comedy because that's what makes the tattooing industry different. There's such a wide array of styles and people, and that's I think what makes it easier for there to be camaraderie. Whereas you have something like comedy where there's people doing a lot of similar things, that makes it hard because a lot of similar things are funny to people. So that makes it kind of difficult. And then you have the situation of people are your friends, so you'll put them on your shows. You know what I mean? And they might not be good, but you'll put them on your shows because they're your friends. If you suck at tattooing, you will get roasted on the internet.
Y-
Like,
Yeah, if you
you
spell
cannot
no
get away with
regrets
it.
wrong and you spell it no regrets, you're gonna get a meme made about you.
Honestly, like, I'd rather have that than some of the artwork that is just scratchy and shitty put on me. Like, I'd rather have no regrets than some of the shit that these people do. But you get roasted. You don't get roasted as a comic or even sometimes as a musician if you suck because you're somebody's friend.
What's the worst tattoo you've ever seen? Sometimes I feel like tattoos can be shitty, but I feel like it might just be on the wrong person. Like I know Gucci Mane wears that fucking ice cream cone like a G, That's
Good,
perfect.
yeah, those, and I can't even count those face tattoos as like bad because I just don't understand that. Like they're supposed to be bad.
Hey,
I
I'm
think
not
they're
saying I understand it, but it
yeah.
looks pretty good.
Yeah, like I think they're supposed to kind of be shitty, and like I think that's the aesthetic. But like the worst thing that I've ever seen, and I'm really like my friend's probably gonna listen to this podcast, but I have to put it out there. My one friend, he's a comic. He it was getting a cover up done. He's still currently in the process of getting this cover up done of Tribal. I think is what is underneath of his Tribal. This man has had him in for 8 sessions, which is not heard of for the size of cover up it is. It's just his bicep. He has been in there for 8 sessions at $300 a session. And this tiger does not look like the quality of work that he should have been paying that many dollars for.
Did it look like the Liger, the one that Napoleon Dynamite drew?
No, it's just a big giant scar. Like he went too hard on him. The orange color looks like so strange. It's just strange looking. Like I can't even describe it. It's not a like you know how like people would do that thing like that nailed it show where like they might have to be asked to draw a tiger and it kind of really looks like a tiger but like it's so slightly off that it's uncomfortable to look at.
Yo, this tiger's got a lazy eye.
This tiger is just fucking beat up, man. It is weird. It is weird. And I want to know what he has spent 3 hours, 8 sessions. I want to know what he's spent 24 hours on.
It's crazy because do you think that's only because like you tattoo for a living, so you get to kind of see the details? Like I know so many people that are like, check out my awesome tattoo, and I'm looking at, I'm like, that is awesome, and then like someone that's a tattoo artist would look at it and be like, you could tell that's off, you could tell they messed up there, you can you start pointing out things that a lot of average people wouldn't notice.
Um, so the situation that I'm telling you now is I can't believe the tattoo's not finished. You know what I mean? I
It's
can't
not
believe this guy has
finished.
really No, he's scamming this dude so hard. I can't believe it. And then I went on and he was like, he has 50,000 followers on Instagram. I go on his Instagram and they're all bot followers. You know how like people buy them
Yeah.
because he has like 80 likes on his photos and 50,000 followers. I'm like, how is this true? But he yeah, it's not done and it's like how much longer are you gonna sit? And he said it's gonna be 10 sessions. And I'm like, he got you for that much money?
You can buy a house with all that.
Right? I mean, $300, 10 sessions.
At least put a mortgage down on it. Shit.
Dude, the tattoo's not even that big. Like, it's not $3,000 big. So he got scammed. This man got robbed, is what happened. And that's a fucked up thing to do to a client.
Do
Like,
you see that
honestly,
happen a lot in the tattoo business? It seems like it would be easy to take advantage of someone that was drunk or something. Be like, oh, it's going to be $800. And it's like, all you did was put a heart on my ankle, but I'll pay it.
no, they don't do that. That's a little extreme, but what you will see is people who charge by the hour and they'll charge for their cigarette break and they'll take 20 cigarette breaks. They'll take as many cigarette breaks as they can. They'll tattoo really slowly to try to add on to the time. I've seen tattoos that I would have charged $200 for cost 500 for just the fact that this person took all day to do it. I've never experienced that personally getting tattooed by people that I know because I was very, very diligent in selecting people. I went to people that other people had gone to previously. People just don't think, even like people who go get basement tattoos, they don't think like you had to know what you were getting. You had to look at their work and say that's good enough. And then when they get the tattoo and they're so shocked, it's like that Pikachu meme, like that open mouth Pikachu, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Like you looked at this person's work." I've seen people, like Delaware's small. I've seen people ask me for a tattoo. It was too much money in their opinion, so they go to get it from somebody who charges them less. And I'll see the tattoo they asked for, and I'm like, "Wow,
You get what you pay
okay."
for.
Yeah, and I would say that at our shop, we're pretty reasonable. I mean, people like freak out about $100 minimum, but like we are both artists. We're drawing custom work for you. It's not like we'll never take your Pinterest tattoo and trace it. We'll never do that at my shop. I think that's one of the biggest problems in the industry too, is the tracing and copying.
Now, what would be your worst tattoo experience that you've ever gotten with a client? Like one that I've heard stories of people that come in drunk and they're screaming the whole time. I know my uncle has a story that he calls the crazy bitch because her boyfriend, I guess, the whole time through a tattoo. Apparently, she cheated on him in a hot tub, and then something happened where I guess that image came back into the boyfriend's head. So he started calling her a crazy bitch for like an hour and a half, and he's sitting there trying to tattoo her, and she's
He
screaming
had
and yelling.
a PTSD moment.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right. Well, I have two. I have one that's a short story and one that's a little longer, but these are good because they're on two different ends of the bad client spectrum.
Well, now I'm really interested.
So I had one who got a small sunflower on the back, like on her back in the middle, like in the center, but more up towards her neck, so like the middle of her shoulders. It was her first tattoo. I had to line half of the sunflower, and she could not sit there. And then I had to she was like, "I'm not gonna sit here anymore." So I had to do another session, so I had to put the other end of the sunflower on the next time, and then I had to do another session to shade it. 3 sessions for a sunflower, that was 3 by 3.
See, I wouldn't be able to do that as a tattoo artist. I don't like having to break up my sessions. I want it all done in one shot because the next day I might be feeling bad. The next thing I know, I mess up, or it wouldn't be the best if you did it all in that one session. I mean, I get with
Yeah.
extremely long tattoos, but I don't
No,
know.
she was just had an extremely low pain tolerance, and I told her at the end, like, "Getting tattooed's probably not for you." Because that area of the body is not that bad. The tattoo that she got is not that serious. So I was like, what is gonna happen to this girl trying to get tattooed, you know? But I had only been a year into tattooing, so I was like still way too nice. So that's why I let it happen. But now I would just be like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And it was $150 tattoo. Like it was not worth my time to have to deal with that. It took me an hour each time. Like it should have taken me an hour total.
Okay.
She would like kept getting up and stuff, and she was like very young, and like her boyfriend was like like there's the boyfriend enabler that comes with you and like holds your hand and stuff, and I'm like, stop babying this whole adult woman.
What was the point of the sunflower?
I don't know.
I I
I
always
was
think to get
so
a tattoo, I have to get something that means something to me. Like I was thinking, like me and my buddy, we're trying to get a tattoo to get like on our wrist or something. So because like we're practically brothers. I mean, I've known him. He's done. He's done. You got me an Apple Watch for my birthday. So when someone does that, you freaking you're brothers for life practically. But
yeah, yeah, definitely.
for an extensive amount of other reasons, we're trying to think of something to get. And he's like, I don't have any tattoos. I don't really want to get a tattoo, but if you want to get one, what would we get? So we're trying to think of ideas. We've been thinking for like 2.5 years. My uncle's a tattoo artist. And he's like, dude, I'll do it for free. Just pick one that you really want to do, but make sure you actually want this because it's going on your skin. I'm like, let's get a barcode. My buddy's like, I'm not getting a fucking barcode on my wrist. I'm like, well,
Mm.
I don't know, man. What do you want? You want to get like hearts on each other's wrist? I don't care. Pick one. Like I'm honestly just like at this point, like let's fucking do it.
So I'm kind of a novelty tattooer where like I tattoo things that are like probably not as serious or meaningful. I mean, I tattooed a sexy Grinch. You know, I
Maybe they had an arousal when the Jim Carrey came on the screen. I mean,
No, I just drew it up on my flash and somebody was like, I need that. I have Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber as a pinup on the back of my leg. So I have things that mean things, obviously. Like I have my best friend who passed away on my leg, and I have my mom who is still alive, but she's the bomb. So I have that on my arm. I have things like that, but then in between I just have little dumb shit that like I thought was funny. I have a tattoo. Yeah, I don't know if you remember the infamous dick butt drawing that the kid did and
yeah.
it became a meme. I have a tattoo of that. Like I have meme tattoos. I'm a very simple kind of person. So I I need to look at things and laugh sometimes. Like I have a peach butt on my leg and stuff. So I'm not a meaningful tattoo kind of person, but I think the sunflower was for her grandma or something because I know there were dates with it. Um, but this girl was like that was probably the most stressful ever. And then I guess the other thing that happened,
The long one.
it's not long, it's just longer than that one. um there was a client who her boyfriend brought her in to get her a tattoo for her birthday, and it was of Snow White. It was a Snow White tattoo, and he left and went up the street to the bar that he works at. Because our street is like a city street in Wilmington, so it's like the main street, like kind of like a main street kind of thing. So there's bars down the street, and he went up to the bar he worked at and got fucking hammered, dude. He came back with the most wobbly wobbles, like wobbling around, could not walk, almost knocked down this really expensive statue that my boss has in the front. Like almost knocked down this other thing, like fell onto the couch. Then he had to go to the bathroom. He walked back into the bathroom and he peed all over the bathroom
Oh my god.
while I was tattooing his girlfriend, and I told her she had to go clean it up. And then while
I
he weeks later, he's messaging me that her tattoo didn't heal well or whatever, and I'm like, that's not really like possible. So then I find out that like from a person that he works with that like he's just kind of like a scammer kind of guy, and not to like listen to him. I messaged the girlfriend to see about her tattoo, and she never got back to me or like said anything. So basically, this guy I think is like was trying to scam me out of money, like to try to get a refund, to try to get some money, because I think he used to be like a drug addict or something. Or may currently be, I don't know. I mean, from what I hear, he does a lot of shady shit at work. So I'm like, he works up the street though for my job, and I offered them to come in and get a touch up or whatever, and they never showed up. So I'm like, all right, well, obviously you were trying to get like a refund or some money out of me, because like the tattoo couldn't have gone more smoothly. So I was like, why would this ever have been like a problem?
When you have something like that happen, does that make you look at Snow White a little bit differently? Every time I would see Snow White on the screen after that incident, I would be like, "That bitch."
Snow, well, in this particular tattoo, Snow White was definitely smoking a bong in the tattoo. Like it's on my Instagram. She was smoking a bong on the tattoo. So it wasn't really Snow White behavior. So I'm like, Snow White, she's not that bitch. You know?
You don't know what Snow White does when she's not sleeping.
I mean, Snow White definitely is a lightweight though, 'cause she died from eating that fucking apple. So whatever.
She could have hyperglycemia.
Yeah. Snow White has multiple health issues that we don't know about. Um, but yeah, I I just look at that restaurant when I walk by it and I'm like, ugh, that guy. But I have a really good client that works there, so it balances it out.
My uncle, he owns his own tattoo shop called Independent Tattoo, and he works right next to a Chinese restaurant place. And he's like, you don't know how many times somebody comes in here, drops somebody off, and they go right over the side and start ordering like Chinese food and just sit down and have a meal. They'll come back with like 3 egg rolls or something, just standing there. He's like, it's the weirdest thing, but you just get used to it.
Yeah, we have a lot of restaurants and things around us. It's actually great because like some people like have the cojones to bring their kid into the shop.
That's got to be
Uh,
dangerous.
so I have one client who I love, but she brought her son in one time and he was crawling all over the floor, which is a disgusting place to crawl because you don't know, like this is where things get dropped and things get dropped that have, bloodborne pathogens on them. So this kid should not have been crawling on the floor. We obviously clean the shop, but you're midday, mid tattoo, and your kid's crawling on the shop like floor. So we're moving to like a location around the corner, a bigger location, so we can have more people working, and we're gonna have like a much stricter no kids policy because, sometimes we feel bad for people they can't get childcare, so like we have them sit in the front, but sometimes like people will come in with their boyfriend and their kid, and I'm like, have him take your kid home. Like, what are you doing?
Dude, you
You
just
know?
you just threw me back through a loop. I started thinking about all the times I went in with my grandma or my mom somewhere and I had to sit up front in the lobby reading a magazine of like some hairstyle magazine or something.
Right? Your mom's getting her hair done and shit.
Yeah, I don't know how many times as
Yeah.
a kid I had to go on those trips where I'm just sitting there like, I want to go. This is boring. And I'm sitting there reading a magazine in the lobby. I mean,
Right.
my mom and my aunt, like my uncle's a tattoo artist. So my aunt, she's like an artist herself. They used to go over there when I was a little kid. I used to drive by the tattoo place. I used to walk in. I used to just sit and stare at all the different designs that they would have on display for people to get to. And I was like, In my mind, I'm like, I'm more of a meaningful tattoo person. I want to get something that like means something to me. But when I started seeing the tattoo designs, I'm like, you know how badass that would be to have like a sword or something just on like your wrist or something.
Right. Right. It's and that's like like my shop's like more of like a boutique kind of shop. We don't have like designs on display. I do have flash. I draw flash. I draw my pop culture flash, but my the shop owner is a black and gray tattooer. He does a lot of like really beautiful like portraits and things like that. I do a lot of custom work. So everything's like real custom. So we don't have a lot of flash on the walls. But that's like historically what I remember from getting tattooed like by my friends and stuff. There's flash everywhere.
What would you
Um,
say your most memorable tattoo would be? Like the one that really kind of sticks in your head that you think about a lot?
oh, definitely. So this is kind of the way I ended up where I am. I got a tattoo of my best friend who passed away, a black and gray portrait by my current he doesn't like being called my boss. He's like, I'm your coworker, I'm not your boss. The shop owner, the shop that I work for now. He did it, and I hadn't been working there yet. I was working in a different shop. Actually, it was the shop he apprenticed in that I was working in. And I was like, who's going to do this portrait of my best friend? And everybody told me to go to him. Like, he's great and he's cool. And we ended up hitting it off, and I ended up working for him. So obviously, like, this is the most comfortable place I've ever worked. So that kind of makes it memorable, but also the fact that it's my best friend that passed away. So it's the most meaningful, most memorable tattoo because it like was the kind of the tattoo that changed my life.
That's a good thing to have like you said, not really a boss, but a coworker. Like having that type of vibe inside of a place in general, knowing that you're at the equal level of somebody, someone that has maybe way more experience than you or way more, uh, however long of training or an idea, or maybe better as an artist, creating himself on an equal level really makes an overall vibe that is comfortable to go into.
Yeah, he's very much like, I don't want to tell adults what to do. I'm not going to tell adults how to live and stuff like that. So it's very relaxed. It's a very relaxed environment. And we just kind of joke around all day. Like, we just joke about dumb shit all day. It is a really fun place to work. And, like, it's also comfortable because he's, not a creepy, like, gross person. Like, I've worked with creepy, gross people a lot. I've worked with people who are obnoxious a lot. I've worked with people who are jealous. And so that's not accepted there. It's not something that happens there. I mean, having two of us there though is like, it can't really happen. But we do have apprentices now and they don't give off that vibe either. So like everybody's friends. Everybody's friends. Nobody would ever say anything bad about anybody. It's really comfortable and it's comfortable for clients to like clients love the vibe of the shop. Everybody's like greeting you and excited to see you when you walk in. Nobody's sitting there like in the corner listening to metal music, not talking to anybody. It's like not that I don't like metal music, but it just doesn't create a comfortable environment for all people coming in the shop, you
Well, you
know?
want you want a chill vibe when you're getting a tattoo too. If you walk into a place and it feels like gloomy and death and everyone's silent, like trying to rush you out of the door or something, you don't ever want to get anything from there. I think the only type of place or business that really kind of thrives off that quick get out of here type action is like a Chinese restaurant when they're just rushing you out the door. Like, what do you want? All right, 10 minutes. And then they just throw you out the door. You're like, all right, cool.
Oh yeah, we actually have a restaurant that's a Tex-Mex restaurant in Delaware that everybody goes to, and the food is great and everything about it is great. But they have the restaurant atmosphere. The tables are kind of close together. It's very loud in there, and they get their food out to you very quickly. And they want to get people in and out of the door really fast, so they make it slightly uncomfortable for you to like be there because you don't want to hang out there. It's not a place where you'd want to hang out and have like a quiet meal. They want to get as many people in and out of the door as possible because they are super busy.
Now, where do you get most of your creative ideas from? Like, have you ever just like randomly had an idea where you had to write it down? I mean, dating a stand-up comic or something. The whole factor is he's probably gets multiple inspirations where he has to write something down.
Right. Honestly, we'll just be like talking about something at work. We'll be talking about a movie that we haven't seen in a while or something. And I'll be like, I have to make a flash of that. Or, you know, I always like to think of what my clients like. like something very popular in particular is like Harry Potter and the Nightmare Before Christmas. Two things that I am not super into, but I will do Flash based on kind of what my clients are interested in. I hear my clients talk about the same kinds of things: Adventure Time, Nightmare Before Christmas, Beetlejuice, fucking The Simpsons, which is like that's something that I am actually into.
One of the first tattoos I ever saw in a shop was Homer Simpson. He was eating a donut, but like the donut was oozing all into his mouth and going down. When I was like 7 years old, it's always stuck into my mind.
Yeah, I love Simpsons tattoos. I have a Millhouse tattoo, actually, because he's my favorite. It's Millhouse, and remember they all had those wigs on. All the boys had the wigs on, and they're sitting on the curb.
Yeah.
I have him in the wig sitting on a peach.
Oh my goodness.
It's a silly tattoo, but I love Simpsons tattoos. I think they're so fun. I have one that I'm trying to do now. It's Homer eating the ear of a Playboy bunny with the Santa's little helper eating the other ear. Um,
That's one iconic show that everyone can love. I think it's because their jokes have relatively kind of adapted to the culture, like kind of like how Family Guy does. It's that like they make references and things that are still relevant to this time period. So someone watching it now who wasn't born back in the day can actually get a laugh off of it. Like, oh, he just cracked a joke on Matthew McConaughey, or he just cracked a joke, like things that are still
yeah, they
relevant to this
keep
time.
they keep it fresh. My favorite show, like three of my favorite shows are like one of them is South Park, which is really a hard sell tattoo wise. Super hard sell. I've never made a South Park flash because I'm like, nobody would get it. Nobody would get South Park because they're like, oh, it's
Never a
offensive.
fan of South Park. Sadly, the very first time I ever watched it was I saw the movie with Saddam Hussein, and I was
Yeah.
like 8 years old or something. Oh, dude, it was the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Oh my God, Saddam Hussein, because Saddam Hussein is terrifying in the South Park
But
movie.
I came right in the part where they were shoving something up his butt, and I was like, oh, no, this is too much. This is too much.
Oh, that shit's hilarious to me. But I just the South Park is just so stupid and extreme. And like the first episode I ever saw was when Cartman is trying to win the Special Olympics,
Oh my goodness.
and I was like, this is ridiculous. His mom just like brings him up to the table and they're like, what's his disability? And like she like just says he's the R word, and I'm like, why is this a show? And then I keep watching it and I couldn't stop because some of the shit was like really funny. Like
You know one
it's
show
some of
that
it.
really did that to me back in the day? I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was on the Nickelodeon channel, but it was called Mr. Meaty.
I've heard of it.
They had an episode where the dude had a tapeworm, and they're like puppets. They have like you can tell like their hands are
Oh
not
yeah, they're terrifying. I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yes.
the tapeworm episode. He goes to eat something, and a tapeworm comes out of his mouth and grabs the food for him and takes it from him, and like just goes
Uh,
back into his stomach. And I swear, I mean, I saw that when I was a kid, and for a straight up year, I couldn't really eat food correctly. I was sitting there like staring at it, like, is
you
this
thought
a
about
thing?
that for a year.
Oh my god, it was bad. I was.
Is the tapeworm coming?
You want to talk about like like old TV shows, all the stuff that like you couldn't play now. That was one of them. Like I get the whole Johnny Bravo thing, but I think it's stupid, mostly because it showed you that if you were a muscular guy, you didn't get the chick, and chicks would treat you badly because you were acting like an asshole. And usually
Johnny Bravo is not cool. Not a cool guy. Definitely not.
that wouldn't get played today. None of that would get played today. I'm like, all right, man. Like, if you want to ban a show, let's ban Mr. Meaty because that one, the dude fried his own hand and then started eating it. You're like, what's going on here?
I mean, even like oh my God, one of the most popular things that I did tattoo wise, I put out a salad fingers flash sheet and it sold out in 2 hours. Salad fingers is a YouTube video of this creepy little man who just like I can't even describe what the fuck he does. He does this like really creepy and he talks really slow and people love it. Like it's a big viral YouTube thing that happened years ago, like back in the beginning of YouTube when you had shoes, you had muffins, you had the Leave Britney Alone guy and the Star Wars kid. It was like that time of YouTube, like YouTube,
Is
like
he
the
green?
golden age. He's green
Okay, I know who you're talking about now.
and he like rubs his spoons with the tips of his fingers and stuff. And he's creepy as shit. And he like eats weird things, like weird dead animals. He's just weird, man. And people loved it. Like they really loved it, but it was like in the golden age of YouTube where like all of that weird shit was big, like old Greg. If I did an old Greg flash sheet right now, it would sell out.
Do you
Like
try and
people love that
find
show.
like more iconic stuff based on your customers, or you try and find what's trending, like what a lot of people see on the internet, and then try and adapt it to your own form?
Oh, I don't like I always I've kind of I've done 5 Baby Yoda tattoos now, like trending wise. I'm very concerned about that because I don't know how long The Mandalorian is gonna last. And I don't know. I don't think it's iconic. I don't think anything can be iconic until like it's relevant 10 years later. And like Salad Fingers is over 10 years old.
Something. If you get a tattoo of The Simpsons, those are iconic shows that have already showed that they can kind of stand the test of time, you know. But when you start doing Baby Yoda and stuff, it's like, how long is this gonna last? You know, is it gonna be like the meme of like,
Right.
you know, of the dude that sprinkles the sauce or the sugar on the meat or something? Like, is it gonna last that long?
Right. Is it gonna be like Salt Bay? Is it gonna be Salt Bay?
Yeah.
It's not, it's I don't think it is. And I've been doing so many Star Wars tattoos and old school Star Wars, that's fucking rad. But like if it's gonna be Baby Yoda, I don't know, man. I don't think I could just do that. Or like the little peep tattoos and the Juice World tattoos, all these like SoundCloud rappers that die and stuff. I do a lot of tattoos for them too. And I'm like, these people were only relevant for a couple months,
What
you
would you
know?
say if you were thinking of a creative tattoo to put on somebody? Have you had one that you haven't had really the time to do yet, or anybody that wants to pick it up? Have you had an idea?
Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot of flesh that I'm looking to just that Homer one I was talking about where he's eating the Playboy bunny ear. I really want to do that. But I've always I actually finally got to do a Carrie tattoo. I know, have you seen the movie Carrie, the old horror movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got to do that. That was something that I really wanted to do, and that happened a week ago. I really want to do a huge. My favorite movie is Willy Wonka, the Gene Wilder version. I just want to do a big Willy Wonka piece. Like I own a big Willy Wonka piece. I have it on my leg. It's huge. I really want to do a big one of like all of the characters from that movie.
You brought up a good point though that you don't think a tattoo always has to be memorable. Because my one buddy came over and he has a bunch of tattoos now. He has Mr. Meeseeks on his leg. He has Pokemon on his arm. He's got
Yeah,
all these
I've done a
things.
lot of Mr. Meeseeks.
I see them though, and I'm looking at them like, why would you get that? But at the same time, they look so badass to where I'm just like, "Yeah, I get it. Like it looks cool. Like it,
They're
it was it,
fun,
it was done right. You know what I mean?
but you either have the personality of wanting things to be more meaningful, or you have the personality where you can just get whatever. And the thing is, I find a lot of tattooers that do tattoos that they would never get. I do tattoos that I would get, but by somebody else. Um, uh, like I do tattoos of like things that are just like fun for me, and then we all like have a good time doing it. But I can understand wanting something meaningful. I can really understand that. But I've had people who had like friends who passed away. Like there was a local guy who passed away, and people were getting tattoos of possums because he just loved possums. Like silly things like that. Like that is such a wonderful way to remember somebody.
Especially the
And then you can
heartfelt ones
laugh.
too. The ones like where someone loses like a child or something, so they get their heartbeat on their arm or something like that. Like that means a lot, and that's something that's like that's significant too. But
Yeah, and that I can understand, and that but then I kind of think, I think of it this way. I attract a clientele that, if I guess they had a child pass away, they would get like their favorite stuffed animal tattooed on them rather than getting something small, they would get something big. Um, or, my best friend passed away. His favorite thing in the world was Boy George. I intend to get a Boy George tattoo in my lifetime from somebody. So it's really, really, really it's just about, the kind of person that you are. And I just happen to attract a more like silly kind of people because, that's what I'm interested in.
that's the personality you give off. You give off a fun vibe, being able to talk to you easily. And first of all, it's nothing like, drill sergeant style stuff where you see a lot, like we were explaining before, the old kind of mindset of the tattoo industry. I think it definitely needs to be a little bit more open and more expressive, especially when you're getting something tattoo on you. I mean, if someone comes in with an idea, you don't, even if you don't like it, you can't just sit there and be like, it's the dumbest thing, I'm not doing it. Then they're just like, well, I spent all day doing this.
Right. And like, I'm not. I'm not interested in taking people's money. If I feel like I can't do the idea justice, and there are times, there's a lot of times where I feel like, this is probably not the tattoo for me, but I can recommend somebody really good, and people will be like, oh, I really want you to do it. And I'm like, well, what about my work makes you think that I should do, this black and gray, like serious piece, Like, and so then and especially with having a coworker who does serious pieces all the time, and he always says, "Oh, I wish I could do more, fun pieces." And I'm like, "Yeah, like I feel you on that. Like I wouldn't want to do serious things all the time." And like he's got clients who get like I mean, if he tattoos somebody on you, they look like the person, and they like cry and stuff, and that must be so wonderful. But I can't handle that, because I'll just cry too. I can't handle that.
I think a lot about what I would enjoy about the tattoo industry in general is just the overall connection that you can get with people, the amount of stories you get. It's the reason why I'd want to be a bartender, only because the amount of information, the amount of stories you probably come across, and just the connections that you meet with people has to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and you come across people, who are really, really genuine and really, really cool. And then you can also come across people who like tell you wild stories about their life that are not true. And then we'll be like, oh, here comes this person, and they just are gonna tell us some wild shit that's definitely didn't happen, you know? So you get a lot of liars too.
What would you say you would suggest to maybe add or fix in the tattoo industry?
I would say probably like that everybody kind of needs to lighten up and be, more excited about, the fact that you get to go to work every day and you get to express yourself. And not a lot of people get to do that. A lot of people have to go into their 9 to 5. They can't have tattoos. They can't have colorful hair. They can't have a lot of the things that you have. Like, you're very privileged in this industry to be able to do that. And so, like, be nicer, walking like, and it's such a good, like, this is such an opportune time to talk about it because I'm just coming off the Philly convention. I mean, people walk down the fucking thing and mean mug you the whole time. Like, stop mean mugging people. Like, it's fine. Everything's good. Life is not bad.
Doesn't always have to be a competition.
It doesn't always have to be sad. We don't always have to be like, edge lords about things. Like we don't always have to be badass and like, be look angry and look mean. Like, I am a very friendly person. I don't want people to ever come and feel like I'm going to be mean to them. Like, I
Yeah.
just want I just want everybody to just like maybe walk down and smile at each other. I don't know, like, be nice.
Yeah, I definitely think that needs to happen not only in the tattoo industry, but in the world in general. I think more people need to start, realizing that there's another person out there too. Just because they don't think like you do doesn't mean they're wrong or doesn't mean they're this. It just means, they lived a completely different life.
Shit's just not that serious. It's just not that serious. Like, you'll hear people complain all the time in this industry, and I'm like, it's shit's just not that serious. If somebody asks you for something stupid tattoo wise, don't complain about it, laugh about it. It's funny as shit. We laugh all the time at my job about like some of the requests that we get where it's like, I want all like this 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Like, just like, you don't have to complain and talk about how stupid people are. Just like educate the people,
Yeah, I mean,
you
I
know?
I can be deep and emotional, but I like to joke around. I like to include that because I think life should be filled with laughter. You don't want to ever spend your whole life being serious.
Yeah, everybody just needs to be happy and laugh and enjoy. You're very privileged to be able, like, especially if you're a tattooer and you're tattooing at the Philadelphia Convention, you're very privileged at that point because you had $700 to spend on that booth, or you had however much money your shop charged you to have that booth. You are doing well if you're sitting there tattooing and making money. Like, there's people who are out there homeless. Please stop complaining.
I mean, well said, well said.
Like just like, oh, I saw this person I didn't like and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you should have just laughed it off. Like,
So
calm down.
we're all just trying to make it on this earth, and I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Anna. It was awesome talking to you.
Yeah, I love doing podcasts. I think they're so much fun. Actually, my friend, I actually think that we are a mutual friend of his, Adam Nutter. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, I know Adam Nutter.
So Adam Nutter is my client and friend of my boyfriend's. Um, and I was on his podcast, was the first podcast I ever did, and I was like, I want to do more podcasts. And I'm thinking about starting one with a friend of mine. Um, so I'm gonna probably work with him and Neil's company. I don't know if you know Neil as well.
I do know Neil a little bit. He's trying to get on the podcast.
Oh yeah, he's worth your time. He's funny. He's interesting. Adam's real interesting too. He comes in the shop. We have a good time every time he comes in. He's a good time.
I'm gonna connect you probably to another podcaster that I met. Her name is Amy Nichols. She does a tattoo. Shout out to her. That with other tattoo artists, where she kind of interviews them and talks to them about, like, she's a tattoo artist herself, and I think you guys might get along a little bit too. Talk about the industry a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Send me over her profile. And I'll hit her up today.
Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.